Welcome to the Helicopter Podcast, your go-to source for all things rotorcraft. I'm Halsey Schider, bringing you the stories, insights, and conversations from around the helicopter industry. Whether you're a seasoned pilot, a maintainer, or you're just passionate about helicopters, this is the podcast for you.
It's time for your Heli Life giveaway buzzword. Listen up and remember this word because you'll need it to enter for a chance to win exclusive Heli Life gear. Ready? This episode's buzzword is airspeed. Visit contest.verticalhelicasts.com to enter the buzzword.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Halsey Schider with the Helicopter Podcast, and I am just feeling excited to be podcasting today. You know, I typically do my podcast one day of the month, and I just do a whole bunch in one day, makes things a little bit easier, get through the day. And so this is actually podcast number one for our recording here in October, and I'm just excited to be doing it. I love these days. It's so fun to be able to have these conversations with super cool people in the industry doing really awesome things. So I'm just feeling blessed and lucky to be chatting with folks today, including my first guest, Robyn Weisenburger. Robyn, how are you? Welcome to the Helicopter Podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm doing great. Excited to be here.
Yeah, super fun to have you on. And of course, to Vertical Magazine and MHM Publishing, thank you guys so much for creating the Vertical HeliCASTS platform. Absolutely feel so lucky to be on this platform with so many awesome other podcasts. So if you're listening and you haven't checked out the Vertical HeliCASTS platform, I encourage you to do so. Robyn, again, welcome to the Helicopter Podcast. Where are you coming? You're coming from Houston?
Yes, Houston, Texas.
All right. Are you from Houston?
No, I'm originally from the Chicagoland area, but I got here as quick as I could.
Interesting. So my wife and I lived in Texas for about 8 years total, two different stints. And it's funny, I grew up in Oregon, and that's where I live now. And when you grow up in Oregon and you think of Texas, you think of like flat, you know, like the little, what do you call it? The tumbleweed, the little, you know, kind of situation. And we ended up living in the hill country outside of Austin and then San Antonio, and it couldn't be more opposite. And such a lovely place, amazing outdoor recreation. We absolutely loved Texas, still own property in Texas, and look forward to visiting. Now, that being said, I want to give you a chance to defend Houston a little bit, because I've talked to so many folks, and the first thing they say when they're from Houston is like, oh, it's not very nice. So do you enjoy Houston? Do you like living in Houston? Let's give something positive about Houston. I'm sick of hearing negative about Houston.
I love it. I mean, it is a very aviation population. Like, this is a lot of people fly here. I'm close to NASA, but I will say I am on the north side of Houston. So I'm near the Woodlands area. I'm up on a lake. So I get to enjoy the lake, and the Woodlands area reminds me of a non-ghetto Chicago.
Yeah.
So I get all the exciting shopping and restaurants and all the fun things, but it's not as sketchy as where I came from. So
yeah, the Woodlands,
that's definitely some pros.
The Woodlands is a super nice area.
Yes.
Fun fact, the first time I ever had Chipotle was in the Woodlands, and my life has never been the same. I had a friend in college that lived in the Woodlands, and instead of flying all the way home back to Oregon, I just went halfway across the country and went to Texas instead, and hung out with him and his family in the Woodlands. And yeah, I think it was like right when Chipotle was kind of becoming a thing, you know, so I don't know why that memory is vivid, but there it is. So you're a pilot,
Yes.
you're an author, you're a consultant, and specialize in business development. And before we got on the show, you're actually checking your blood sugar because you're a type 1 diabetic. So that's obviously
Yes.
really fascinating to me, especially from the pilot perspective. So before you got on the show here, you checked your blood sugar. Where are we at right now?
I was at 212 before we got started. So it's probably right around there, hovering, you know, like we like to do. 216.
216? Okay. Well, so that sounds kind of high, but obviously I'm hoping that you can educate me a little bit. To our listeners who may not be familiar, I'm sure that everyone has heard of diabetes, type 1, type 2. but some might not understand kind of the differences or what that all means. So would you mind just giving like a little background on like what diabetes is and
Yes.
how long have you had diabetes and what that is just like living? I'm just kind of fascinated by that.
Yes. So I was diagnosed when I was 13 years old, and I was not overweight at all. In fact, I was the opposite. I was 72 pounds at the end of my eighth grade year. Very, very tiny. I was drinking over a gallon of water a day. And when you hear diabetes, a lot of times people think and assume you brought this on yourself. You ate too much sugar or something, but that is not the case. Type 2, a lot of times they would eat more than their body can produce insulin. However, my pancreas just quit when I was 13. And so now every single day I take about 4 to 5 shots every day just to stay alive. And that's not even the craziest part about it. And we'll talk more about the helicopter side, but the FAA, when they finally gave me a medical, I'm not allowed to fly if my blood sugar goes over 300. Once it hits 300, I have to wait. So, because it does, kind of make you feel a little weird in your brain. It's not as sharp as it should be. So, and then there's the opposite where I take too much insulin or don't eat enough. And my blood sugar goes low. Every time I fly, I keep insulin and fruit snacks right in the little pouch, right in the helicopter. So, yep, that's a short way of putting it.
Yeah, I'm super interested to talk about, diabetes and your journey into helicopters. And, I do appreciate too the fact that maybe some misconceptions where specifically maybe type 2 diabetes happens a little bit later in life could be a result of diet many times is I actually had a higher than normal A1C a couple years ago when I went to the doctor, pre-diabetes. And I wasn't taking great care of myself at that time. And so that was really kind of an eye opener of like, oh my God,
Yes.
and so since that time I've, been really cautious about, what I eat and how I eat and my exercise. And luckily I was able to bring down my A1C back into like normal ranges. So I'm excited to hear that. I've had buddies that I grew up with that, just like you had juvenile diabetes.
Okay.
I had a friend of mine, I think we were like 18 or so, maybe a little bit older, in our 20s. And he was just feeling like crap all the time. And he was so thirsty. And to quench his thirst, he was just pounding Gatorade. And it was like, 23 grams of sugar. And I think when he finally went to the hospital because he was feeling so crappy, I think his blood sugar was like 700 plus or something, if that's even possible, like
Yes.
just so out of control. And that's when he found out he had diabetes. Apparently he had like a flu or a fever the week prior or a couple of weeks before, and it just zapped his pancreas somehow. So, super interesting. Well, that's cool.
And I
13
will
years. Go ahead.
on that, I will say, since COVID, with all the crazy sickness going around, there's been so many kids that have been diagnosed, which is why I decided to write one of my books to help these next generation of type 1 diabetics. So,
Yeah, well, and again, I'm so excited to talk about the books and learn about that and get my hands on a copy myself. When I think of diabetes, I don't necessarily think of pilot. So let's just start there. Tell me a little bit about what that all means for your journey into aviation. And before you even kind of get into the meat and the potatoes of what it took to get a medical or what it looks like now, just tell me a little bit about your passion for aviation and when that all started.
okay, well, um, that started, I became a type 1 diabetic at 13, but never ever thought, this is going to hold me back. But 16, I met a pilot for the first time. Keep in mind, I am in a religious cult environment. I don't know if we covered that yet, but
I don't think we
I
have.
grew up.
All right. Well, let's backtrack for a sec because we
Yes.
got to. That's a bit of a hot topic right there.
Yes,
You were in
yes.
a religious cult at the age of 16.
Yes, I actually was born into it. So it's all I knew. And all I was allowed to be was a wife and mother. That was it. And yes, so I grew up in it. I was only allowed to wear skirts every single day, below my knee, nylons, all these weird, crazy, unnecessary, man-made rules that were my life that I lived every day. So I met a pilot when I was 16, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. You fly airplanes. He was in the Air Force before, and he was an older guy. And I just thought, I'm going to be a pilot. That's the first time I ever heard. Never seen an airplane in my life. And then I remember looking out a window and seeing an airplane way up high in the sky. And it was like, oh my gosh, I can fly those. That is the coolest thing ever. And ever since then, if anybody asked me, what are you going to be when you grow up? I said a pilot with confidence. So then I'm kind of getting into my story, but it's been my biggest passion for years and years and years. And I, as a type 1 diabetic, have tried to steer myself in different directions so many times because it was not working out, not working out, not working out, but I couldn't quit. That's one of my biggest struggles. And I know it's like a positive thing, but it's like crazy how bad, like if I tell myself I'm going to do something, I do it and I don't quit. And so yes, as many times as I try to steer myself into getting involved in some other thing, aviation had my heart from 16. So
yeah, it's super. It's one of those things, right? Aviation for most of us. I've had some strange folks, and I mean that in the nice way, on the show where they just kind of accidentally, stumbled into helicopters, specifically at like their adult age, right? A guy that was working at a mountain resort and saw a Black Hawk, laying towers in the summer, all of a sudden sparked this new, like, oh my God, I want to do that. For me, very similar to you, very young age. It never felt like it was really like an option, right? It was just like, oh yeah, this is what I'm doing. And for me, my process sounds like a lot more simple. I didn't live in a religious cult, and I don't have diabetes.
You did wear skirts. That's good.
Well, no. Yeah, my skirts always went down past my knees, so I kept it classy.
Thank you to our sponsor, Vertical Aviation International. This March, you need to be at Verticon, the largest vertical aviation trade show and conference in the world. With over 15,000 attendees and all the major OEMs and suppliers, it's the place to be. Register today and save. Early bird prices end January 16th. Go to verticon.org.
Okay, so we have a little technical difficulties. We're coming back in now from what I hope is an advertisement, or this just happened and we're just going to keep it live. We'll see how it goes. But so, for me, again, it's like the passion, right? It's almost like this drive. And that's, I think, one of the cool things about most pilots or being a pilot is that it just felt like it was more of like what you were just supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And so it definitely resonates with me, this idea of like, well, yeah, of course I'm going to be a pilot. I'm going to do everything that I can to be a pilot. Cause that was like, I think since the age of, I don't know, 6 for me, it was like every waking moment was like about what do I do next to become a pilot. And in fact, in high school, a lot of the times I would tell my teachers, like, I don't know why I got to learn this stuff because it had nothing to do with flying airplanes. So why am I here? So that was kind of, my struggle is like, I never thought the high school education was like really that important because it was like, just throw me in a cockpit already. So, so you have this desire, you learn about aviation at the age of 16, which is a little old, mm-hmm. right? But I guess circumstantially in your upbringing, that
was early.
I guess common. Weird thing. I used to fly tours in Vegas, and occasionally I would like meet a guest and be like, "Oh, nice," and what are you doing? They're like, "Oh, this is my first time ever in an aircraft," and they're like 40, and I'm like, "What?" Like,
yeah.
And you're gonna go in a helicopter? Cool. All right, awesome. Like it's just kind of bizarre. So 16 to now, what does that path look like? Because honestly, I always thought that diabetes was a bit of a like deal breaker for wanting to be a pilot.
Yeah, me too. No. So when I was 19, I had heard that you have to go get a medical from an AME, Aviation Medical Examiner. And so when I was 19, I went to an AME and he looked at me and he said, "Are you sure you want to be a pilot?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, I'm just letting you know this is going to be a waste of your time to pursue this." And I was like, "Okay, here's your $100. Peace out." And I left there that day, and I was in college at the time, which was part of the cult. I actually tried to run away to Texas when I was 17, about to turn 18 after I graduated from high school. And my pastor told me I was ruining my life for wearing pants. And I really thought that if I moved away, went to Texas and started my life, I was really going to ruin my life. So I went back to 4 years of this unaccredited college, paid my whole way, and put myself through this college wearing skirts every day and following all the rules, which got even stricter the older you got. I knew I didn't want to be any part of that. So as soon as I graduated from college, I went to flight school, and I went to a school up in Indiana, and I started flying airplanes. And it was the best thing ever. The first flight I took, I was like, this is incredible. And I got to fly past the city of Chicago, and I was in love. But I knew I couldn't stay in that area. So when I turned 23, I packed up my little Kia Soul and I drove to Texas all by myself. And then I fell in love, built a family. We have 2 kids. Also, I married to a pilot. And yeah, I don't know if you want to talk about any of that craziness.
Yeah, no, it's super cool. Your story is definitely not a straight line.
No.
I feel kind of bad. I feel like my pilot story is really boring compared to yours. So you're in flight school, you're learning airplanes. How far along did you progress into airplanes? And I guess at that point, I'm really curious to learn more about like just what the FAA views and like what you've had to do to get a medical, what kind of medical you have now, what does that mean? Just kind of learning about that process.
Yes, I know my story can definitely go off topic because there's a lot of loops in between. But medical wise, I started flying airplanes in Chicago. Then when I moved here, the first I did, I went to a little airport out here, and I was very lost. And that's why one of my biggest things is even today, like showing people where to start. But I went to a flight school, and I had about 23 hours when I moved to Houston. And one of the owners of the flight school itself was like, he was almost 80 years old, and he had a medical. And I was like, okay, if he can have a medical, I need to find out what he's doing. So by this time, I believe this was my 3rd medical examiner, and he couldn't. Oh wait, no, this was my 4th one. So I had seen one in Indiana, one in Chicago, and I had seen one as soon as I got here that couldn't get me a medical. And then this guy introduced me to his AME. And so I had a meeting, and I was so nervous because this was my biggest passion. And I was building hours. I was constantly still flying. And the guy said, basically, he finally told me that he sent all my information to the FAA. And I was like, that's great. That's as far as I've gotten with anybody else. He said, but they're the ones that you're going to have to deal with directly. So this is age 23. Yes, 23. I started calling the FAA every single day. Hey, I'm just checking on the status of my medical. Hey, I'm just checking on the status of my medical. And I kid you not, this went on for 3 months of me calling every single day to the FAA. That was a long process and a lot of just consistency with that. And I really do believe to this day that they gave me that because they were so sick of me calling. Like, but the craziest part, because this was after 5 years, they gave me a medical for 6 months, a 3rd-class medical for 6 months, and that was it. And after 5 months, I continued to fly, was so ready to solo. I actually felt like as a student was so ready. I wanted to kick my instructor out and go fly this airplane by myself. But I knew my time was coming to an end, and I knew how hard I worked for that medical. And I don't think they fully understood that. I know that CFIs a lot of times are just trying to build their hours. I was at month 5. And so I called that AME back, and he said, I'm sorry, you're going to have to deal with the FAA directly on that. And I knew as rough as it was, I could not continue to keep doing that every 6 months or less. And so I couldn't quit as much as I tried during this time. Like, okay, go play tennis, Robyn, just be a normal person. But so I kept flying. Then I met my husband shortly after that, and I married him 42 days later.
Damn.
Didn't tell anybody.
Long engagement.
Yes, he proposed after 17 days.
Oh my God. What did I say? When you know, right?
That's true. I mean, we're going on 9 years. So
wow. Congrats.
So, thanks.
Awesome.
Yes. So it was good to stay in aviation, and I was newly married and wanted to stay involved so much that our current president for Women in Aviation was going to Southwest Airlines. And I knew that our chapter there was a chapter down by NASA that had to shut down because nobody stepped in and filled that position. So I didn't want our chapter to go away. And I took over as president. I had absolutely no qualifications to be the president of Women in Aviation. I couldn't even be a pilot myself. And I had all these like incredible women that were coming to these meetings. And I just felt so unqualified. But I stayed at it. And then when I had 2 kids under 2 years, I was like, all right, I got to step down. So I'm just still the vice president of the chapter and still run it pretty much. But it's been good. So that kept me in aviation.
Yeah, I mean, that's super cool. And, I like to hear that. Well, I don't like to hear this, but I think an important note, and we've had some other guests on the podcast that have had medical issues, getting medicals, I should say. And one of the key factors that I've always kind of taken away from those stories and those conversations is this idea of like, you have to advocate for yourself, right? You have to pick up the phone, in your case, every single day. You have to kind of navigate that process. And, I think nowadays with people like you kind of blazing the trail and other media platforms, including this podcast, hopefully it can help people understand that sooner so they're not wasting time just collecting no's, AME after AME after AME. We had a guy on the podcast that was told, hey, you're never going to fly, you're colorblind. And there's no way that you'll ever be a pilot. He believed the AME, took his word for it. He had a 20-year career in the military. His MOS was music. So he actually was in the military as like a musician and traveled around the world, including like Iraq and Afghanistan, playing music. And retired from the military, and then did a little Google search because technology had changed to the point where Google was better, and learned that he could do what's called the Farnworth lantern test. Essentially a one-time test. If you pass, you're good. And if you fail, then you're disqualified forever. But he's like, well, I have nothing to lose. He took that secondary test and boom, he passed. And was able to get his medical. And that was a test that's been around for years and years and years and years. So he could have actually been a pilot way sooner. Now he's, flying airplanes and helicopters, I think. But again, you have to advocate for yourself, right? You have to take some research, and you have to, and I think it's like anything in life, right? Like, no one's going to take care of your money like you'll take care of your money. And no one's going to, take care of your business like you're going to take care of your business. And so you're constantly always having to kind of fight for yourself. And I think when you're going through something with the FAA, specifically a medical consideration, being able to advocate for yourself is one of the most important things. So if you're listening to the podcast today and your story is similar to Robyn's in the sense that there's something medically that could be a disqualifying factor for you, you have to make sure that you research what you have to do, talk with the right people, and then advocate through the process to hopefully get to a positive outcome. So you mentioned Women in Aviation. You jumped in as the president.
Yes.
And kind of funny, right? You didn't have a ton of flight experience at that time, but what a neat way to stay engaged.
Yes.
So for our listeners who might not be familiar with what Women in Aviation are, other than, of course, Women in Aviation, but this is actually an organization. So tell me a little bit about that, what that program's all about, the mission of that, and kind of your role now as the VP.
Okay. Well, yes, we pretty much are women in aviation, and that's all different fields from mechanics to pilots to helicopter pilots, just every field you could think of, really, even flight attendants. We have a few of them that come on our bi-monthly meetings. But we basically, it's a place where, since it is a very male-dominated industry, it is a place where we all can come together and know that we're not alone in this journey. But that's where it kind of more began. But now it's pretty much just, we like to have fun. And we do have guys that come in that support women in aviation. And we're just a fun group to be a part of. But most recently, we just 2 weeks ago had our Girls in Aviation Day. And we brought the Coast Guard out and search and rescue demonstration for them and all sorts of incredible things. We did a little flyover. And we need men to be part of it, really, because there's so many. It's just crazy because we had probably more men show up in their aircraft than women. And that's, just the way it is. But
that's just part of the industry.
Yes. But we had over 200 girls come to this event, and they got to learn about aviation. for the first time. There's only 5 of the 200 that hadn't been there before. And we moved it to the north side of Houston. We've been 2 hours away on the Ellington field, where like closer to NASA before. So it was just a good opportunity, and more just encouraging other girls to come join it, and that it's not only men. So,
And are
no
these
offense.
like, are these, none taken. Are these girls of like elementary to high school? Like, what's the age
Yes.
range?
Yes, 8 to 17.
And how do they find out about like this event that you just did?
They're international. This was an international event. So this is, I believe it's our 10th year. At least for Houston it was. And I just posted it up on some local Facebook groups, and that immediately has capped out, because we were asked to only bring 150 because we were at a new location, a new airport, and all this stuff. And somehow our website just, I don't know, it went to 205 and then it cut off. And we had so many people asking to be part of it. And I was like, I'm sorry, due to limited space, we can't. But we're excited. We're going to keep growing it. And yeah, just keep introducing aviation to the next generation.
And I guess what is kind of the common theme, like when you're meeting these young girls, young women for the first time? What is like some of their experience, going into this event, and what do you see, say, post the event, of what kind of impact you guys have on the next generation?
Thanks to our sponsor, Airbus. Airbus provides the most efficient helicopter solutions to its customers who serve, protect, save lives, and safely carry passengers in demanding environments. Its civil and military helicopters are flying all over the world, making missions possible. Visit airbus.com for more information.
I mean, boys and girls, I just love to introduce aviation to people. That is my biggest passion. But just our last Christmas party, we brought my good friend. She just sent me a message today inviting us. We're going to go to a library at a school. I don't have all the details for that. But Lynn Ripplemeyer, she's the first female 747 pilot in the world. And she's 74 years old. I don't know if she was going to say that, but she's just a legend in aviation. And she was our speaker this past Christmas party. And that was so impactful for the girls to hear this, because talk about trailblazer, that was her. That was so strange back in her day. They laughed at her and they were like, there's literally no way, you're a girl. Like, you cannot fly an airplane. And so just to hear her story, that's exactly what Women in Aviation came from. And so just impacting the girls in aviation. So
yeah, it's super cool. I think, as aviators, being part of this industry, I think we all have a responsibility to get more young people involved, because unfortunately we're seeing a decline right now on maintenance side, on pilot side, all these people not wanting to join aviation. And I don't really necessarily know, because in a day like today, we have so many new tools, YouTube and Instagram and Facebook, all these places where people can connect and learn about aviation. So I think it's really admirable to get people involved. And then, of course, certainly try to encourage more young women to get involved. Obviously, very male-dominated industry. It's always been that way. Just like you were saying with that gal, who's trailblazed in the 740. I mean, those were like probably pretty harsh days. She's probably had some pretty horrible things, said, and probably had some pretty hard experiences to get to that point. But, thank goodness for women like her to make that path, right? Which is, super cool. I just had my first child, a little girl, and she's only 3.5 months. So I don't know what she'll end up wanting to do.
pilot.
Part of me is kind of like, do I want her to be a pilot? I don't know. I don't know. If she wants to be a pilot, then I would be happy to, help guide her through that. And I guess we'll kind of, see what happens. But women in aviation. So if there's someone listening right now to the podcast that's maybe just getting into flying, they've never heard of Women in Aviation before as an organization, what's the best way for them to connect? And it sounds like it's like a chapter system. So there's like maybe a national kind of HQ, but then there's sub-chapters all over the country.
Yes. So they can go to Women in Aviation International and find where your chapter is. If there's one near you, definitely get connected. But you can also look on Instagram or Facebook. There's groups for everyone. We're Women in Aviation Houston. And if you're in that area, we'd love to have you be a part of it. We are super fun. And I have to tell people I'm fun. I'm just kidding. But
Does that mean you're actually fun or not?
No. But it's just fun. It's a good group to be a part of, and we just do events throughout the year. But yes, Women in Aviation International is the best way you can find a chapter near you internationally. So
When I was looking on the website before the podcast today, I noticed that there's also maybe scholarship opportunities. What can you tell me about
Yes.
that?
Yes, there are scholarships. So international, they do a bunch of scholarships, and us as a private chapter, we also do our own scholarships for our local people as well. So there's obviously bigger amounts, bigger money in the international one, but we do partner with flight schools all the time, and we go half and half, and we try to just pump out as many flight scholarships as possible, and that way, their given sum is from us and them, and they get a potential student as well, which is also great. So we do those. We do about 3 a year, and they could just go to our website and apply there. And so, yeah.
What are you looking for in someone that applies? Because I'm guessing, anytime you start talking about flight scholarships, people are always hitting me up all the time. That's one of the biggest messages I get of like, hey, I can't afford flight school. What should I do? And I always feel bad because I'm like, well, there's just not that many, take out a loan, ask mom and dad for money. I don't know. There's not too many opportunities for scholarship. Like, traditionally, like when you go to say a 4-year university where maybe you can get a grant here or a scholarship there. And so when scholarships do come up for aviation, it's quite competitive. So I'm guessing you get a number of applicants. How do you guys kind of source through that? And what are some of the characteristics that you are looking for in an applicant to award them the scholarship?
Well, they definitely need to have a way to pay for flight school. That is very important. Obviously, we're there to help them get started, but they do have to have a way to pay for it. One of the businesses that I'm helping consult with right now is starting an airline training program. If this is for the airplane side though, but they're working with, it's kind of like ATP, but it's cheaper, and it's a fast track program. And but they have financing opportunities. So there is that option, which is very significant. And that's built towards aviation specifically for flight school. Yes, obviously there's a loan and everything, but now I'm kind of getting off topic. But scholarship, basically, we want to know what interests them in aviation, what their goals are, and also if they're looking to give back. A lot of times we do have a lot of younger kids that we want to get them started in aviation, but it's kind of all over the map. We just want to make sure that they use it and that they have a end goal in sight. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it sounds like obviously some type of path to completing school, not just starting and then running out of scholarship money and not being able to continue. And then, of course, I'm guessing factors like, what they want to do and whatnot. So if you're listening to the podcast and you're interested in getting involved with women in aviation, you can go to the Women in Aviation International. You can go specifically to the Houston chapter. I actually stumbled across Robyn on social media. And so I'm guessing that you can find her there as well and kind of connect. And again, it's a great program. I also did notice that on the board, there are men. So men are obviously involved. And so if you're a guy and you're listening to the podcast and you just want to get involved and help support more people getting into aviation, specifically in this case, more women getting into aviation, then you can also get involved. So, and, there's other organizations. I know there's Whirly Girls, specific to the helicopter side. So there's a lot of really neat programs that help young people, in this case, young girls, kind of get interested into flying and kind of seeing what that path is. And, I'm hoping we had to step it up on the guy side. I feel like we're not, I mean, I guess it's just such an overwhelming dominated industry by dudes already, but maybe that's part of the problem. Like we're not helping young people get involved. So we just got to do something.
You're gonna be taken over.
We got I guess maybe that's not a bad thing. Some of my best students, great flight. One of my best flight instructors I've had were all girls. So, women are badass in many ways. I just saw my wife carry a baby for 9 months. I thought it was the most incredible thing. And then the whole birthing process was a little bit different for us, but it was wild. And now seeing her as a mom, I'm like, yeah, women are on a different level. Especially when it comes to babies. I love my baby, man, but like the crying is hard. And
Oh yeah.
man, my wife can just tolerate it, man. She's just a freight train just going through it. So women are badass, and women in aviation are even more badass. So very cool. So let's talk about helicopters. This is the helicopter podcast after all. I saw that I think LinkedIn said Veracity Aviation organization that I'm very familiar with. When I first started my helicopter brokerage back in the day, it was not called Helicopter, it was called Aircraft Brokerage of Texas. And we had a little hangar, and it was right next to Veracity there in Seguin, Texas.
Oh yeah.
And so, I know Derek very well. Not very well, to be honest, but I know Derek. And I know Veracity, and a lot of my friends have gone through Veracity. So is that where you've done all of your helicopter training? And where are you at in training? Do you have a medical right now? What's happening with all that?
So it's funny. Derek's wife is also a type 1 diabetic, which is just really cool. Like when I met her, I thought they were going to be freaked out that I had insulin stashed in the hangar refrigerator and like, who has drugs here? But his wife admitted that was really cool to connect with that. Anyway, yes, I did all my training at Veracity. I really just have my private right now. I am building hours, and I could go get my commercial, but right now I do have the BasicMed. And the only reason why I was eligible for the BasicMed is because I fought 5 years before for that third class medical for 6 months. That's the only way. If you didn't have medical, you can't qualify for the BasicMed.
Wow.
So, and it's good for 4 years, which is absolutely incredible. Which I need to redo it. But anyway, so as soon as I got it, well, I had been flying airplanes all this time. My husband got me a discovery flight in a helicopter for, I believe, my 29th birthday. Yeah. And I was like, if I get a medical, this is what I'm going to do. And I honestly never was so bad at doing something that I wanted to learn how to master. Like, it was like, oh my gosh, like, this is terrible. But I was like, I'm going to do this. So sure enough, my husband's medical examiner was like, I can get you a medical. I was like, okay, I've heard that before. But he actually did. He was able to pull through, and I was easily able to get my BasicMed. And so that is what I fly on now.
Yeah. First off, demo flights, lethal. Best marketing tool for a flight school. And so absolutely my experience too. I'd been flying airplanes in high school and then got my demo flight in a helicopter. And I remember we were flying back, and actually my first instructor, a lady pilot named Lisa, she was pretty new, and she had messed up the demo flight. She essentially took me on an extended demo. So I got like a little two for one. Nice. And we ended up landing on a public heliport downtown Portland, which is one of the only public heliports. I think it's closed now for some reason. But anyway, that was like, oh my God, we just landed on a building, And then I remember we were just flying home straight level, and I couldn't fly the thing. And I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. But oh my God, this is impossible. And I still remember that exact moment, and it's funny to look back. I think I was maybe 18 or 19 at that time. So we're coming up on 20 years on that. And it's like still such a visceral moment of like, this is so hard, and I don't think people realize that, flying helicopters really takes so much practice. And it's really more like wearing a pair of pants or a skirt, I guess, and in your upbringing.
I burn those.
It's like an attachment to you, and I think that's what makes helicopters really hard, right? Yeah. But I also think that's what makes helicopters amazing. So I always like to hear that. Trust me, if you're just starting off and you're learning how to fly and it feels like you suck, you do. Yes. They're hard to fly. And in fact, Robyn, I don't know how many hours you have, but I truly didn't feel like competent until about 500 hours. And that also included, at that time, about 300 hours of dual given. That's when I finally was like, oh, that's why you should not look inside during an auto rotation. Or, it's like all these aha moments, so BasicMed, I guess just tell me a little bit about that. I don't know if you're an expert of BasicMed, but I'm guessing you understand some of the parameters, like let's say that like I have a class 2. I know I can operate commercially. I can get paid to fly. I don't really have any restrictions, at least listed on mine. My AME did tell me this year I have to come back with glasses because I was right on the border. So my eyes are starting to give out a little bit. But what are the restrictions and limitations of a BasicMed? Because I've heard BasicMed a lot, but admittedly, I really don't know what it is.
Thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.
So I cannot be hired for compensation or hire. I can't be hired, which does suck. Because I was about to, when my friends, I really want to be a tactical flight officer. I'm not sure if that's something you're familiar with, but with the sheriff's department. So I'm working on some things, but I was talking to one of my friends who is a tactical flight officer that I met at Heli Expo, and he was like, well, apply to this scholarship. And so I went all the way through and I applied to it. But you have to have at least a second class medical. And so I will say on scholarships, I've never won a scholarship in my life. And I have applied to so many. And I say that because that's one thing I do want to point out is you do have to believe in yourself and you have to fight for things, because I really do believe that there's people that just didn't believe that I was going to ever be able to get to it. But I do also believe down the line that I can get a higher class medical, but I will really have to fight for it. So as long as it took me, my journey was a 12-year journey. I just want to make sure that it is something that I can do long term, and I'm not going to be completely taking over my life with trying to fight for medical so hard that I don't appreciate my life that's going on around me, if that makes sense. But your question.
BasicMed.
Yes, my BasicMed, the FAA obviously does have restrictions. If a blood sugar goes over 300, I'm not allowed to fly. I literally have to wait it out. But BasicMed is good for 4 years. And as soon as I got it, I was like, great. And then every two years, you have to do a basic medical assessment questionnaire online. But other than that, it's very simple to get. And the best thing is you actually can go to an aviation medical examiner and walk away with it. The other times, type 1 diabetic, you're going to have to fight with the FAA directly. So it's very nice. So I love that.
And you're able to like fly PIC of a helicopter. You can be by yourself. Wow, incredible.
Yes.
Now, when you say something like when your blood sugar hits 300, how easy is that to happen?
Well, I was actually in training. I was with my CFI Mark, and we had landed. One of my favorite things to do is like go land at a random restaurant. Well,
I think I know Mark, by the way.
Mark Bartley?
Yeah, I know Mark.
We'll kind of say about. No, he's great. Great CFI.
What's up, Mark?
Yeah, how's it going? He just randomly asked me. It was actually a night flight that we had after. And he was like, what's your blood sugar at? And so I was like, all right, let me check that. And I was over 300. He's like, all right, I've got the flight controls. And then we actually landed at Galveston. And I had to actually get out and get my insulin. I think I had put it under the seat, which we don't fly with doors or anything. So anyway, so I had to take a shot. Yeah, it's one of those things that's very, very challenging. Everything you eat has carbs in it. I ate tomato soup that night. You would think, oh, it's tomatoes, it's vegetable, it's healthy, but they add flour to it. And I don't know this. I'm at a restaurant. So this is like a huge thing that most people don't think about, that I have to just guess on how much insulin to take, which is why the FAA isn't a huge fan.
Yeah.
As you can see. So
you would think that there's like better technology. Isn't there like what about like the insulin pump? Does that help mitigate that?
I've only talked to one other guy right now. To my knowledge, I'm the only female helicopter pilot in the world with type 1 diabetes. There was one other guy out in California that I talked to a couple years ago, and he did the same thing as me. We both take insulin shots and fruit snacks with us, because I've heard, and I've never been on a pump, and I've been diabetic for 20 years, that it could malfunction or be a false reading. And I like to be in control of that. I know exactly how much insulin I take. So there's pros and there's cons. And I am wanting to try it out. But I know that FAA will make me at least be on it for 6 full months before they can give me a medical.
Yeah, of course.
So
yeah, I mean, it just seems like with technology and now it's nice with the constant glucose monitor. You're not having to prick your finger all the time, and your watch just tells you. Is that pretty accurate? Those monitors?
It is actually, and the fact that
where
I can be
where are you at now?
227.
Oh, you're creeping up.
I know.
So what does that mean? Does that mean that you need to eat something, or
no? It would mean I need to take a little bit of insulin, but not too much, but a little bit. So it's all a balancing act, but it is I'm very thankful for technology and being able to see it directly on my watch while I fly. Otherwise, there's no way. Because back in my day when I was flying airplanes, I used to have to ask the CFI, can you take the flight controls? And I had to prick my finger, squeeze blood out of it, put it on this little test strip and check my blood sugar. They were freaking out every time. So obviously, it's very good that the FAA honestly was more cautious back then before the technology came out, because there's no way flying by myself without cruise control or anything.
Yeah, you would. Yeah.
Our pilot, that would be a good idea.
Yeah, of course. That would be definitely tricky. Now with that insulin shot that you have there, I mean, that almost do a volunteer ski patrol program, and so when I look at something like that, it almost looks like an EpiPen where it's like a one-time injector. But how does that shot work?
So this it twists up and it goes up to, I don't know, 200, something crazy. And you just take a little bit at a time and just stick it in my leg and shoot up.
Shoot up. It's medical good shoot up, not
a good one. Good. I had completely changed my diet and watch what I ate, especially back in the day when I applied for that 6-month medical. They asked for everything I ate, how much insulin I took, everything every day for at least 30 days. And it was like every little detail. And I had checked my blood sugar constantly and give them all that information with a bunch of other tests and all this stuff that I am send them. So that was a process. It's not that bad anymore.
Certainly not an easy process. So, congratulations to you of getting through that. That's cool that you went to Veracity there with Mark.
Yes.
Yeah, I know Mark, not super well, but I know Mark. And so, and I think Veracity has 3 locations, Pearland. There's one in Georgetown and then one in Seguin, correct?
Yes, that's right.
So if you're looking for helicopter flight school options, specifically in Texas, you should check out Veracity. Derek and his team have been doing a good job for a very long time. I can't speak to what they do or what they don't do, but I think they have accreditation for VA students. So if you are a VA student, I think you can go there. I don't know if I'm saying that
that's right
correctly or not, but anyway, yeah, great training school. Lots of my friends have gone there, taught there. Now they're, gallivanting around the industry. Author of 2 books. What books did you write?
So I wrote Fearless Flight, which the name itself, Fearless, is because I grew up in a fear-based cult that I was not allowed to do absolutely anything. So it was all based around fear. So this is actually the story of my life and the journey through there. I've had every challenge, seriously, you could think of that I haven't even talked about. But I actually started flight school at Veracity. I was there for 5 months, and kind of going off topic, but I was there for 5 months and I never soloed, and I was about to run out of money. You would talk about money. And I knew I had to quit. We actually got an email that said they were going up on their prices, and I was like, I haven't soloed. I've been here for 5 months. And I took a 1.5 years off. I got a flight simulator at my house and I practiced hovering. I practiced pickups, set downs. That helped tremendously. If you are looking to become a helicopter pilot or even an airplane pilot, get yourself a flight sim. It is worth the investment, especially with helicopters. Anyway, that is my spiel. But when I went back to school, I was like, I am not going to quit. In between that, I had a friend that was going to teach me. I was going to go to Dallas for 2 weeks and finish my training. And we had a date where I was getting excited, gonna just go out there and study hard, work hard, 2 weeks and knock it out. That was my goal, my plan. And I got a text from a friend and she said, hey, just making sure you're still alive. I saw there was a helicopter crash. And I was like, yes, I'm okay. And as soon as I looked it up, I just watched the video of a helicopter fall out of the sky, crash and burn, and I just knew it was someone that I knew. I just
Oh, no.
knew it in my heart, my gut. It was crazy to explain. And sure enough, 2 days later, her name came out, and it was my friend that I was supposed to finish my training with. And that was Laura Trout. Obviously, we've heard of her.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Like, that was my last resort. And if you knew all the details, it was like, that was it. A year and a half goes by, and at this point, I also became an aerial photographer, which was really a cool experience. And that next Thursday after Laura's accident, I had to get in a helicopter. And I remember just being sick to my stomach for the first time. Like, there's no way. I love flying, but I just felt sick. And I did it, and I was okay. But I ran into Guido, who is the Veracity chief,
Guido too. Yeah.
pilot. And he was at our Girls in Aviation Day at Ellington Field one day. And he was like, what are you doing here? I just flew in. And he was like, hey, we missed you. Come back to school. And I was like, all right, if I come, you're going to get me finished. And he's like, we will. So I went there. I was there for 2 months. My 8th day back, I was flying solo because I had a flight simulator. And I was like, nothing is going to stop me. And yeah, even this is all on the how do I pay for flight school. I even took out a credit card just to make sure I was not going to get to the end. I was not going to get to the end and not finish because of money. So
Gotta do what you gotta do.
That's right. And so I went, and I was done in 2 months with all my stuff. And I had to wait. It was rescheduled 5 times for my check ride, but another month to get my check ride done. But 3 months I was done. So that's, yeah, my long journey. And man, when I was done, I didn't know if I was so happy to come back because I was living at the airport. I was living with random people down there, so I didn't have to make the drive back and forth. And so I could stay focused because I had 2 little kids. And so if you're a mom, it is not impossible, but you definitely have to, it's a lot of sacrifice.
I was going to say, it sounds like a lot of sacrifice. Yeah. And what about the children's book? What is that one all about?
Yes. So this one's my life story. And in the back of it, it does have step-by-step, like how to get through flight school quickly, if like get a flight simulator, all that stuff. And I learned quite a few going through all of my airplane and helicopter time. This one is a story I partnered with a guy named Derek Feller. He's an actor and producer. He just teamed up with me. He loves aviation. And it's a story. It's a cute kid's book. But it's also real life about like the struggles that, type 1 diabetics, what it's really about. It's educational, but also in the back of the book, it really is just, it's encouraging. We're doing our dreams. He's an actor and producer, and I am a helicopter pilot. And it's just really to encourage type 1 diabetics to not quit and that this is not the end of their story. And I love it. It just came out 2 months ago, so I'm excited to get it out.
So what's it called there? Type 1 and Beyond?
And Beyond. Yes.
And with both of your books, where can people go and find them and purchase them?
Yes, they are both on Amazon.
Okay, so you got to check it out. We have, what's the first one? Fearless Flight.
Fearless Flight.
Little play on words of all the crazy life experiences and then getting through your flight training, and then Type 1 and Beyond. Yeah. Really cool concept too. And again, so many little kids probably, getting what can probably feel like at the time a very scary and sad diagnosis. Mm-hmm. And, to be able to see adults that have, grown up with it and have been able to thrive and be successful is probably really good for those young people kind of experiencing that for the first time. So we appreciate that and what you're doing for not just women in aviation, but also, boys and girls that might be getting diagnosed with diabetes at a young age, or young aviators that have some type of medical issue that's making it hard for them to get a medical, and knowing that if you're tenacious and you jump through the hoops and you do what you got to do, you can come out on the other side and be successful. So that's, really neat. Quite the story. Religious cult to the age of 23, you said, escaping out, learning how to fly. It could be a movie, really. So that's, wild. Congratulations on your success. What is your husband a pilot for hire, like a professional pilot?
So yes, he talking about medical stuff. He is a Boeing 777 pilot for Omni Air International, but he is on medical leave, and he's actually been helping a school with their airline program and everything. So that's cool to see him doing what he already loves. He was a instructor for years. He used to fly in Alaska. So we had a few mutual pilot friends, and so yeah, brought us together. But
17 days. That's crazy.
Yes,
Man,
he's crazy.
I'm not gonna tell
But
my
he didn't
wife
meet my
that.
family, so that's
he didn't meet the family yet. Did he know that you grew up in a religious cult?
not really. He didn't really fully understand that until later. My family didn't meet him after we were married for 5 months.
Wow.
Dad didn't know we were married.
Well, I'm guessing, I can probably read between the lines, is they're maybe not the most progressive family on certain things. So I'm guessing even that was a challenge
Yes.
of many challenges that you've faced. How old are your kids?
They are 5 and 6.
Nice, man.
Their
back to
names are
back.
Crew and Sky.
Oh, I love it. Crew and
So
Sky.
we're a little nerdy.
Yeah, you gotta keep it in the aviation deal there. We had Tony Merlinderez on the show recently, a good buddy of mine that I used to fly with at Maverick. His daughter is Amelia, of course, after Amelia Earhart. So pretty cool. Well, Robyn, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, talking about your journey, your story. Again, if you want to learn more about women in aviation, you can go and check out Women in Aviation International separate chapters. Robyn is the VP of the Houston chapter. I'm guessing you can also find Robyn on different social media platforms, and I suggest that you do, especially if you're interested in getting involved and wanting to learn how to fly. She could be an awesome resource, especially if you're in the Houston area. Are you going to go to VAI this year, Robyn?
I sure hope so. I do want to be there.
This year, VAI, Vertical Aviation International, Verticon. The show is happening in Atlanta this year. Admittedly, not my favorite show location. I got to be honest.
Me too.
Anaheim's the best. Anaheim rocks. I really enjoy Anaheim. Dallas this past year was okay. But Anaheim, special, nice, good, compact, easy. If you do end up at Verticon this year, please find me. It would be great to meet you in person. To our listeners, thank you all for listening to this edition of the Helicopter Podcast. And of course, to MHM Publishing and the Vertical HeliCASTS platform. Love working with you guys. Robyn mentioned wanting to be a tactical flight officer, TFO. So if you're interested in that, go check out the Hangar Z podcast with John Gray and my boy Jack Shanley doing their thing, talking all about being a pilot in law enforcement, but also being a TFO. I learned all about what that means. So super cool. In fact, Robyn, I got to do a ride along recently with LAPD and see them in action. And man, what an experience. And yeah, I think being a TFO would be pretty exhilarating. So good luck in that next journey for you. And again, thank you for coming on this week's episode.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yep. See you, Robyn.
Right. Bye.
Please stay tuned for a final word from our sponsors.
Thank you to our sponsor, Vertical Aviation International. This March, you need to be at Verticon, the largest vertical aviation trade show and conference in the world. With over 15,000 attendees and all the major OEMs and suppliers, it's the place to be. Register today and save. Early bird prices end January 16th. Go to verticon.org.
Thanks to our sponsor, Airbus. Airbus provides the most efficient helicopter solutions to its customers who serve, protect, save lives, and safely carry passengers in demanding environments. Its civil and military helicopters are flying all over the world, making missions possible. Visit airbus.com for more information. Thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.